And welcome on back to the show to be named later, part 2 of episode 72, where we're talking the 1989 Oakland Athletics. I'm Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Ready to bash.
Ready to bash. Let's go. We're talking 1989 Oakland Athletics. Here we go.
So, in 1988, the A's, many of you may know this, they lost a heartbreaking World Series to the Los Angeles Dodgers. That was the series where Kirk Gibson, on basically one leg, hit the most iconic home run in history against Dennis Eckersley, and it was all downhill from there. So in the offseason, the A's, first of all, they re-signed Dave Henderson, one of their power bats, center fielder from 1988, and they also signed starting pitcher Mike Moore to complete their rotation. So this team, they had a very strong rotation with the addition of Mike Moore, and they reestablished the power with Dave Henderson in their lineup.
They did. But unfortunately, to start the year, the thing doing the most bashing was the injury bug. Jose Canseco injured his wrist and was out for at least the first month of the season. And in the 7th game of the year, Mark McGwire hurt his back and needed to be put on the shelf for 2 weeks, unfortunately.
So the A's opened up their season, and unfortunately their season opener was actually overshadowed by the Major League debut of Ken Griffey Jr. That was what April 3rd, 1989 was remembered for, but the A's, they still prevailed in that game, as you'll see.
Pop up into right field, and this should do it. As Javier is there, and the A's prevail tonight in a tremendous opener by a run.
So that is Dennis Eckersley recording the save. Also, Stan Javier in right field with the final putout. So the A's, they didn't have either of the Bash Bros, which is, the personality in their lineup, but they won 10 of 11 games between April 18th and April 29th, mostly without them. And during that stretch, they needed a bunch of other guys to step up, and they absolutely did. Carney Lansford, the second baseman, slashed 333, 419, 583 for a 10.02 OPS between those 11 games. Also, Tony Phillips slashed 389, 476, 500, 976, and he started games at third base, left field, and second base during this time, so he could be plugged in anywhere. Also, catcher Terry Steinbach slashed 393, 469, 571, and 1040. And he had a hit in all 8 games he appeared in with also 9 RBI. So he had more RBI than games played. And the A's, they were still rolling. They finished the month of April 18-8, which is pretty good, of course, considering they didn't have the Bash Bros, but they were still 1 game back of first place in the American League West to the Texas Rangers. And the A's actually had the best offense in the league in April. They led the majors in position player FWAR with 5.3. They also led an average with 275, slugging with a 415. I know slugging with a 415 led the league. It's crazy, but that's what the 80s were. And weighted runs created plus with 118. Also, another guy was the re-signed Dave Henderson, who slashed 308, 398, 505, and 904 through the month of April. He had a 402 WOBA and 160 weighted runs created plus. Also, his 1.4 FWAR was tied for 6th in the majors. So the A's offense was clicking on all cylinders. And as for pitching, the A's were one of 3 teams in the majors with a sub-3 ERA. They had a 2.90 ERA as a team. The rotation had a 3.39 ERA, and they were led by guys like Mike Moore, who had a 3-1 record with a 1.91 ERA and 7.64 strikeouts per 9, which is pretty good for 89. Bob Welsh was also doing very well, 3-2 with a 3.21 ERA. And there was Dave Stewart, who was 5-0 with a 2.79 ERA. 5-0 is very good. 2.79 ERA gets you there. And the A's bullpen was the best in the American League. They led the AL in FWAR with a 1.2, ERA with 1.78, FIP with 2.72, and K to walk ratio with a 250. They also led the majors in Ks per nine with 7.64, average against with a 156, and a whip of 0.88. Also BABIP with a 194. So I mean, they were clicking really on all cylinders. One guy in particular, Dennis Eckersley, the closer, through the entire month of April, 0 earned runs through 11 and a third innings pitched. He also led the majors in FIP with an 0.73 and was tied for the league lead in F4 with an 0.6. He also had 10.32 Ks per nine and 0.79 walks per nine. So the A's were really clicking as a team with their two biggest bats out of the lineup.
Yeah, the A's were dominating, and unfortunately for them, though, their two bats would not be contributing as much as they would have wanted to by the time May came. And on May 2nd, the A's were down to their last out against the Blue Jays, and Mark McGwire, a young Mark McGwire, came up to the plate with the bases loaded, trying to take the lead from the Toronto Blue Jays. Here it is.
Kiss it goodbye. A grand slam. Oh, did he hit that one? Oh, no. A grand slam home run for Mark McGwire. Wow. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the first hit that he's ever had off Tom Henke.
It certainly is a big one as the A's pass around the bash.
So Mark McGwire, with the team down in the 9th inning, provides a grand slam to turn the tides in the 9th inning. And on May 17th, 15 days after this, reigning Rookie of the Year Walt Weiss left the game with an injury, and he would not play again until late July, unfortunately for the Athletics. Starting pitcher Storm Davis also went down on that exact same day. And Todd Burns made 2 starts as a replacement for Davis, and he combined for 12 and a third innings pitched, 8 hits, 2 runs allowed, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts in those starts. He also picked up wins in both of those starts.
So the A's have lost their starting shortstop and one of their starting pitchers. If you thought the injury bug was bad now, just wait till this one. On May 27th, the A's clinched a series win in New York against the Yankees, but Dennis Eckersley got injured in the process of the first half. And in Eckersley's absence, the A's were forced to go closer by committee for the time being at some point. Todd Burns, who was previously mentioned, recorded 4. Gene Nelson recorded 1, but most notable was Rick Honeycutt, who recorded 10. And in this time, he had a 2.19 ERA, and he went 10 for 11 in save opportunities. So, I mean, he was able to step right up when Eckersley went down. So now we have what I call the return of the king. The A's were struggling in the month of June, and they were right around 500 in the month towards the end of it. And they needed something big to get back on track.
Was traded by the New York Yankees to the Oakland A's yesterday. As you know, Rickey Henderson was traded by the New York Yankees to the Oakland A's yesterday. He arrived here a little while ago. He has traded in his Yankee pinstripe for the green and gold of the Oakland Athletics. Okay. Rickey did arrive late. He kept his fans and teammates waiting. He arrived just 90 minutes before the game. Most players arrive about 2.5 hours before the game. By the time Henderson got to the locker room, it was empty. All the players were out on the field. Rickey was greeted by fans as he took the field and began warming up. Meantime, in the parking lot, I spoke to fans to get their idea on the trade. It's a pretty good trade.
Hello, everybody. This is Gary Thorne with Joe Morgan, and welcome to...
So Rickey Henderson has returned to the Oakland A's to help them in their guide to a World Series victory. This is, I mean, what better acquisition could the A's have possibly made here, Chris?
It's hard to imagine one. Rickey Henderson, as we went over in part 1 of episode 41 of the show to be named later, was the player of the 80s. And this was the 80s. This was a time when Rickey Henderson was arguably maybe the best player in all of baseball at the time.
Absolutely. And he showed it right off the gate with Oakland. In his first 17 games back with the team, he slashed 413, 513, 619 for an 1132 OPS with 3 home runs, 4 doubles, 13 walks, and 11 stolen bases. Mind you, this is just 17 games, like I mentioned. And that took them to the end of the first half. And then on July 5th, Mark McGwire came up to the plate looking to achieve a milestone in his young career.
Here's a drive to right center field. That is really hit. It's well back, and there is home run number 100 for Mark McGwire. Mark tags them all. What a blast that was.
So Mark McGwire reaches 100 home runs for his career, which was just a few years old at that point. He was off and running. And that takes us to the end of the first half. The A's finished 52-36, 1.5 games behind the Angels in the American League West. And the A's had 3 starters for the American League in the All-Star game, and they were Dave Stewart, Terry Steinbach, and Mark McGwire. And the fan voting process for this makes me laugh because it makes me realize how far we've come as a baseball fan base. Stewart did not lead any AL stats except for wins, but with a 14-in record, naturally he was picked as the starter because, it's the 80s, and that's the only evaluation that we really needed at that time. And by the way, I mean, he obviously earned that record. He had a 3.24 ERA. Terry Steinbach had a 322 average, which led all AL catchers, but Mickey Tettleton was actually better with, the power stats, the slugging, the OPS, the WOBA, the weighted runs created plus, stuff like that. But I mean, a 322 average will get you there every time in 1989. And Mark McGwire led all AL first basemen in RBI with 58, which is pretty impressive despite, missing 2 weeks. But he wasn't leading any of the rate statistics, but nonetheless, still there. Mike Moore was also an all-star, and he pitched a shutout inning. And for some reason, Jose Canseco was an all-star. He had not played a single game in the season yet, which is a little weird, but he made the team. And McGwire and Steinbach also each went 1 for 3 in the all-star game.
So that moves on to the second half of the A's, the 1989 A's season. And Jose Canseco finally returned to the lineup in the first game of the second half. He went 2 for 4 with a home run and a stolen base. On August 18th, the Oakland Athletics lost a game to the Tigers. This put them in a tie with the Angels in the division. And the A's proceeded to go 8-4 for the rest of the month. They were 2 games up heading into September, having clinched a winning record at 81-53. Then on August 29th, 11 days later, the Athletics beat the Yankees 19-5 in Yankee Stadium. This was the most lopsided Yankees home loss in 12 years, since 1977. The Yankees got out to an early 3-0 lead, but the A's tied it and then produced a 10-run 5th inning. This remains the only game in A's franchise history with 19 runs scored and a team win probability added of at least .600. And the A's won 7 of their first 10 games in September and had increased their division lead to 3 games. But then they played a very sloppy series in Boston and got swept. The A's made 7 errors over those 3 games, but after that, they won 6 of 7 on a road trip to Cleveland and Minnesota. And during the series against the Twins, Tony Phillips made one of the best plays that you will ever see by a second baseman.
up the middle. Great stop by Phillips and a great play by the Oakland middle infield. Phillips with a great diving play and a behind the back flip to Gallego. Oh, man. Chopped right up the middle. And a blind behind the back flip to Gallego.
So Tony Phillips with one of the most unbelievable plays you will see by a second baseman. And after that road trip, the A's division lead was at 5.5 games, and they were on the verge of clinching. And on September 27th, that day of clinching would come.
That can cause some problems. No, the worst thing a big guy can do is swing and miss when you have a bad hand or a bad wrist, or try and check your swing. But swing and the miss has more tendency to really hurt.
There's a drive to left field. See you later if it's fair. It's gone. Yeah, he hurt his wrist, didn't SB strikes out on a low inside breaking ball. 1 out. Pop fly, short center. Gallego out. They're 1 out away.
And just like that, the 1989 Athletics were American League West champions for the second year in a row. And the A's finished the season 99-63 and had the best record in baseball by 6 games.
That's right. So the A's are playoff bound handily, and we're going to meet the athletic bunch that led them there. He only played half the season in Oakland, but we got to talk about Rickey Henderson. He led the league in the majors in FWAR with an 8.4, and he still would have led the American League in stolen bases if you only counted the games he played for Oakland. That was 52 he had with the A's. He led the majors in runs scored. He led the American League in walks, and he slashed 294, 425, 438, 863 with the A's. He had 148 OPS plus, and he was 9th in the MVP vote. So even in the short time he spent there, Rickey Henderson still did his due with Oakland. Dennis Eckersley, despite missing some time, he went 4-0 with a 1.56 ERA and in 57 2/3 innings pitched. He had 55 strikeouts and 3 walks, 33 saves, and the first season in American League history with a K to walk ratio of 18. He finished, oddly enough, he finished 5th in the MVP voting, but 6th in the Cy Young. I don't really understand the logic there, but all right. Also, a 38-year-old Dave Parker was still doing it for the A's. A slash line of 264, 308, 432, 741, 22 home runs, 97 RBI. That got him 11th in the most valuable player voting. Dave Stewart, the ace of this team, 21-9 regular season record, 3.32 ERA, 8 complete games, 257 2/3 innings pitched. Also the third most recent season out of 160 total, with 250 innings pitched and no intentional walks. Did not intentionally put someone on base once. So Stewart finished 14th in the MVP voting and 2nd in the Cy Young. Carney Lansford, he did a great job. 336, 398, 405, 803. He was just 3 points shy of the batting title for the season. He had a 4.6 baseball reference WAR and was 17th in the MVP vote. Mike Moore led the team in B WAR with a 5.4. He had a 19-11 record, 2.61 ERA, 172 strikeouts in 241 and 2/3 innings pitched. That got him 20th in the MVP vote and 3rd in the Cy Young vote. Also, Mark McGwire, he hit 231 and slugged 467 for an 806 OPS. He also had a 339 OBP because he walked a lot. He had 33 home runs and 95 RBIs. That got him 25th in the MVP vote despite missing a couple weeks. Also, I thought I'd point this out. Storm Davis, one of the starting pitchers, he produced the only season in baseball history this year with 19 wins, less than 10 losses, and an ERA plus of 85 or below. Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Also, Tony Phillips, do you have something to say there?
That's a pretty crazy thing that happened.
He had a 4.36 ERA and
Yeah.
got 19 wins and
Wild.
less than 10 losses. Run support, baby. And also, Tony Phillips played 6 different positions throughout the year, which wasn't exactly a thing that happened very commonly in 1989. You didn't really see the super utility players coming in and out like they do now. And Tony Phillips was kind of one of those guys who paved the way, especially for the A's in '89. And the A's became there are currently 20 teams in baseball history to have 4 pitchers with at least 17 wins. And these pitchers were Dave Stewart, Storm Davis, Bob Welsh, and Mike Moore. So they were one of 20 teams to accomplish that. And the A's offense was tied for the AL lead in FWAR for the season with 27.4.
So that leads into the American League Championship Series against the Blue Jays. So in Game 1, the Blue Jays were out to a 3-1 lead in the 5th inning, and the A's chipped away on a single by Dave Parker. And in the 6th, Mark McGwire led off the inning, trying to tie the game.
Half of the 6th, Steve nursing a 3-2 lead. He's given the A's 6 hits. His mates have 5 off Stewart. And McGwire may have just tied it. First pitch, see you later.
So Mark McGwire takes the hanging curveball from Dave Steve and makes it a 3-3 ball game. Later in the inning, Carney Lansford came up with the bases loaded and 1 out, looking to break the tie.
For the A's, grounded into 163 double plays this year, easily the most in the majors. Grounded to short. They're going to turn it. Fernandez to Liriano. Takeout slide. And the throw gets away. Rickey Henderson made the play.
There's going to be a big argument. They're going to ask for a call out at first base. And according to the letter of the rule, they should call him out. He slid, but at the completion of the slide, the instructions for the umpires say he's got to still be able to come in contact with that base. And he slid hard. Fernandez is arguing with Dale Ford. Cito Gas does not yet come out. It's the kind of slide you want. Man's on your team. Lansford, one of those very guilty all year long of hitting in the double plays, and what a jump Rickey Henderson had. With the bases loaded, he's going to get it, and here comes Dave McKay saying, keep on going.
So on that play that would be controversial nowadays, the A's give themselves a 5-3 lead. The Athletics would go on to win 7-3, giving them the 1-0 series lead in the ALCS. And then in Game 2, The Blue Jays went up 1-0 in the third, but the A's later took the lead in the fourth on a single by Carden Lansford and a double by Mark McGwire. And Dave Parker led the sixth inning off, looking to add some insurance to this A's lead.
Bath this fall. Game 1, the Giants and the Cubs, as Parker launches one to deep right center. This may get out of here. Gone.
So Dave Parker comes up with a moonshot of a home run, catching a lot of air. And the A's eventually got 2 more in that inning on a Ron Hassey sac fly and a Tony Phillips single. And then in the 9th inning, Dennis Eckersley, the man who finished top 5 in the MVP vote, came on to close out this the game to make it 2-0 Athletics.
In game 3 against Storm Davis. The 1-2 pitch. Little pop. Weiss wants it. The A's win 2 at home. They've excelled.
So the Oakland Athletics are up 2-0 in the American League Championship Series. Then we move on to game 3, and with the A's already up 2-0, 2-0 in the game, Dave Parker came up once again in the 4th inning, trying to add more insurance runs to the Athletics' lead.
The 1-2 pitch. Here's a drive to deep right center. Parker got all of this, and it's over the fence and gone.
He got a hanging curveball from Jimmy Key that he just stayed with. Never gave an inch. Oh, he has a little glimpse over at Kelly Gruber as if to say, well, how about that, little guy? Whoa, a little staring contest.
So Dave Parker once again adds some insurance runs for the Oakland Athletics. And the A's were up 3-0 in the game. However, the wheels fell off in the 4th inning for Storm Davis. He gave up a sac fly to George Bell, a 2-run double to Tony Fernandez, and a single to Ernie Witt. It was 4-0 Toronto. And the Jays got 3 more in the 7th on RBIs from Junior Felix, Lloyd Mosby, and Mookie Wilson. And the Blue Jays eventually won the game 7-3 to make it a 2-1 Athletics series lead. And then in game 4, the game was scoreless going into the 4th, and Rickey Henderson decided that he was going to take over.
This will get a run home, maybe more. Mosby going back, looking up, out of here, and into the black seats, the hitting background. There aren't many leadoff men who can launch one like that to dead center field. About a 430-foot shot, 2-0 Oakland.
I think we talked about that yesterday when Jimmy Key was the starter, that you might negate, you will negate some of Rickey Henderson's base stealing with a left on the mound, but he becomes a little bit better extra base hitter. But that far, show you that with a full house, a nice warm building, a little more humidity, the ball is flying. I don't think Rickey could even believe it went that far. He thought it might be up against. What's that, 430?
That'd be my guess, in that vicinity.
I think
himself just slightly out of position a lot.
A drive to left. If it's high enough and fair, it's gone.
Yeah.
It qualified on both counts.
Like it landed right on the top of the fence, just inside the screen. A breaking ball, down and in.
A blur.
Can you imagine how many ways this guy can beat you? Game 1 and 2, great speed, a record, and then he does this today.
Jays fans didn't like to see him racing. They like him even less trotting.
So Bob Costas with the great call. The Jays fans don't like him racing around the bases. They like him even less trotting. He had two home runs in that game. Also, Jose Canseco had 2 more RBI, and he also had 2 RBI on a home run and a single. The Blue Jays, or the Athletics, would go on to win that game 6-5. The A's started the game in Game 5 on a Rickey rally, which is a term coined by manager Tony La Russa. So Rickey Henderson walked, stole second, and then scored on a Jose Canseco single. In the 3rd inning, Rickey Henderson struck again with an RBI triple, and Oakland got more insurance in the 7th inning on RBIs from Steinbach and Mike Gallego. And in the 9th inning, Dennis Eckersley went to send the Athletics to their 2nd consecutive World Series.
Felix steps out. Here it comes once more. Struck him out. And the Oakland A's have a return engagement in the World Series. Their 2nd consecutive American League pennant. Canseco and the 2 Hendersons, and Rickey is the MVP. It was unanimous in the balloting by the media.
So the Oakland Athletics are American League champions in 1989. Rickey Henderson won ALCS MVP, slashing 400, 609, 1000, 1609 with 4 extra base hits, 7 walks, and 8 stolen bases. But he wasn't the only offensive machine in the series. Mark McGwire hit 389 with a 10-11 OPS that series with a home run and 3 RBI. Carney Lansford hit 455 with a 993 OPS with 4 RBI and 2 walks. Dave Henderson, the other Henderson, hit 263 with a 912 OPS with a home run, 3 RBI, and 2 walks. Jose Canseco hit 294 with an 871 OPS with a home run, 3 RBI, and 3 walks. And Dave Stewart on the mound went 2-0 with a 2.81 ERA in 16 innings pitched. Mike Moore went 7 shutout innings in his start, and Dennis Eckersley throughout the series had a 1.59 ERA in 5 2/3 innings pitched to go along with 3 saves. So now on to the Fall Classic.
So the A's were facing the San Francisco Giants in the World Series. So that means it is the battle for the Bay. It is Oakland, San Francisco, essentially next door neighbors fighting for the World Championship. So in Game 1, the A's ran ahead in the 2nd inning with the Tony Phillips RBI single. Walt Weiss hit into an RBI fielder's choice, and Rickey Henderson hit an RBI single. So the A's were up 3-0 early. Dave Parker hit yet another leadoff home run in the 3rd to make it 4-0. And in the 4th, Walt Weiss looked to do the same thing.
For the Giants. And of all people, Weiss drives one to right field and gone. During the regular season. And La Russa saying one reason he wanted Weiss in the lineup be the right choice.
So the A's have 5 runs in 4 innings on 2 home runs. And although the power is on for the offense, make no mistake about it, this game belonged to Dave Stewart.
21-9 during the regular season, 69 walks and 155 strikeouts. Here's the 1-2 to Mitchell, hit to the right side and short hop nicely by Phillips to throw him out. And down he goes here. So Stewart has his first strikeout.
3 straight years with 20 wins or more.
And down goes Maldonado.
You will have a good, healthy swing.
Runner goes, and Thompson has gone on strikes. That's grounded toward the hole, and Weiss is there to plug it up and get him at second on the fourth. The World Series has been played here, and the former, and who knows, maybe future home of the Raiders. Grounded to short, Weiss on the run, throws him out, an easy inning. And Mitchell gone on strikes. Number 4 for Dave Stewart.
Low-scoring ball games. The only game they won, 2-1, when McGuire hit the home run.
Game 3. Steinbach comes all the way back and has room. Crowd chanting "Stew, Stew, Stew" as Thompson grounds one on a hop to Lansford. Over to second to Phillips. The Giants finished in the 8th. And Williams gone on strike. He lived up to his old nickname there. And it's grounded to third, backhanded by Phillips, straightens up, and Stewart has his shutout.
So Dave Stewart with a complete game shutout to open up the Fall Classic. His final line for the night, 9 innings pitched, 5 hits, no runs, 1 walk, and 6 strikeouts. That would be a game score of 82 on the night. Pretty good. So now in game 2, the A's performed a flawless Rickey rally to start the game. A walk, a steal, and a double by Carney Lansford. In the 4th, it was tied 1-1. And after Canseco walked on a 10-pitch at-bat, Dave Parker came up looking to give Oakland the lead.
Here, a low ball pitcher to a low ball hitter.
And Parker eyeballs one to right field and into the corner, and it's a fair ball. Maldonado plays it perfectly, then double clutches. Parker is in at second, but Canseco comes in to score.
So Oakland is back on top with that double by Dave Parker. After Dave Henderson walked and McGuire struck out, Terry Steinbach came up looking to give Oakland some insurance.
To deep left field, and LaRussa was very prescient. God.
So Terry Steinbach hits the home run, 3-run home run to put the game away. And after Mike Moore went 7 innings pitched with 1 earned run, the bullpen finished it off, and the A's won the game 5-1. They were going across the Bay Bridge with a 2-0 series lead. So now we move on to game 3. And the A's, like I just said, they only need 2 more wins, but needless to say, this game started quite like no other.
Running between him and Clark. Flash forward to the bottom of the 4th inning. Dave Parker barely by inches just misses a home run. Candy Maldonado with the hesitation, allowing Jose Canseco to score, and he fails to get Dave Parker at second base. So the Oakland A's take.
I'll tell you what, we're having an
So, as you just barely made out hearing Al Michaels and Tim McCarver say, there was an earthquake during the pregame. And it wasn't just it wasn't that light of an earthquake. It was one of the worst earthquakes recorded in the history of California. In fact, it is currently recognized as the 13th largest earthquake in California measured by magnitude. This put up a 6.9 on the Richter scale. And this is a very serious event. 63 people tragically lost their lives in this natural disaster. Thousands were hurt, and roughly $10 billion worth of damage was done. That is calculated to current inflation. Back then, I think it was like $3 or $4 billion worth of damage, but still. Parts of the Golden Gate Bridge were broken. Parts of the city were on fire. And if you were at this game, especially if you were like in the upper decks, like you were worried for your life. Like there was no guarantee that you were going to make it out of there alive. And obviously they postponed the game. They had to have everyone exit the stadium, players, staff, fans, whoever you were, you were not in a 100% safe situation out there. So they had to have everyone exit in an orderly manner. So how do you respond to this? I mean, this is a serious moment in your city. You have the two local teams there. And one guy who stepped up to it was Dave Stewart. He's a Bay Area native, and he's lived in this area his whole life. So naturally, he wanted to help out. And Stewart went out at 2 a.m. to bring food and coffee to anyone in the area who needed it. He didn't have to do this. And in fact, it was actually going against his own safety because, aftershocks were a real worry. So, I mean, he could have been putting his own life at risk just to help others in the area who needed it. And, Dave Stewart is a Hall of Very Good type of pitcher, but make no mistake about it, he is a Hall of Fame person. And it showed right here in this very instance. And I wanted to highlight that because I think it's important.
Yeah. Yeah, well put.
So the series was postponed and Game 3 would actually be played 10 days later. So because of this, everyone was rested and the A's got to go right back to Dave Stewart to pitch Game 3. They didn't have to worry about Storm Davis and Bob Welsh going forward. They could just go right back to the top of the rotation. And in the game, the A's bats didn't miss a beat.
And it is a special city. People have been fantastic. The whole area. There's a drive to deep right center field, and that one is gone. Dave Henderson this time hits it over after hitting the top of the fence in the first inning. This one clears it by a couple of feet in the fourth.
This ballpark than any other park.
And that one carries very well to right field, and that one is gone off the bat of Phillips. And the Giant bullpen is busy.
Well, you got to wonder, Al, what the line drive off Perelts did last inning. He came off the mound. He's had that type of year where you don't want to leave.
Drops down, and it's drilled to deep left center field, and Jose Canseco on a 2-2 pitch has hit it out. A 3-run home run, and it's 7-3 Oakland. But especially in a lineup like this one. And there's another towering drive to deep center field. Butler goes back, and Henderson has hit his second home run. The fourth by the A's, the fifth on this winless night at Candlestick, and it's 8-3. Now Lansford hits it in the air to left field and deep, and going back is Mitchell, and that one is gone. And that ties a World Series record for most home runs in a game by a team, and most in the game by two teams as well. It's 9-3. The Yankees against the Cardinals in 1928 hit 5 in a game, and there have been 6 in the game from both clubs on 3 separate occasions, and now 4.
So the A's hit 5 homers in the game, 2 from Dave Henderson, 1 from Jose Canseco, 1 from Tony Phillips, and 1 from Carney Lansford. They scored 13 runs in the game, and they became the first team in World Series history to score 13 runs on 5 homers. So that is some history right there. Dave Stewart also went 7 innings pitched with 3 runs allowed and 8 strikeouts, and the A's won the game 13-7. So now in game 4, this was it. This was a potential A's clinch night, and Rickey Henderson was ready to go.
And he hits a high fly ball to left field, and that one is carrying, and back goes Mitchell, and it's a launching pad again tonight. And I have to tell you, I've seen a lot of games in this park, and that fooled everybody. But on a winless night, what would be a normal routine fly ball goes out, just like last night, 1-0.
That sets a World Series record. Never in the history of the World Series has 8 different players hit home runs. Now only Mark McGwire has not homered.
So Rickey Henderson gets it going, just 1-0 after 3 pitches. The A's threatened again in the second, but pitcher Mike Moore came up at the plate with 2 outs.
Report on Moore, don't you?
Has trouble with the thrown ball. And it's hit in the air to center field, and Butler races back, and it's over his head. Henderson comes in to score. Weiss is being waved in. He scores on the first hit by an American League pitcher since 1979 in a World Series game. On an 0-2 pitch that Butler had a lot of trouble gauging.
There you have it. Mike Moore getting it done with the bat. 3 A's, and the next hitter was Rickey Henderson.
Tied 1-1 in game 2.
And that's grounded to the hole for a base hit. Moore is being waved in by Laxman. Here comes Kevin Mitchell's throw to Kennedy. Not in time. Down to second goes Henderson, and it's 4-0. So Henderson with a single, a run batted in, second on the throw. He's 2 for 2 tonight. It's 4-0, and Roger Craig has to go to the mound in the second inning.
So it is a 4-0 A's lead early in this one. The A's are pouring it on. Mike Moore stayed shutting out the Giants on the mound, and the offense kept doing their thing. In the 5th, Terry Steinbach came up looking to insert the dagger.
That's hit down the line in right field, and it's a base hit, and more as Canseco comes in to score. Nixon still chasing it down. Henderson rounds third. He comes in to score. The relay to third is not in time there, and it is 6-0 on a triple by Steinbach.
So Steinbach able to leg out a triple for 2 runs, and they weren't done yet. The next batter was Tony Phillips, looking to put even more insurance in this one.
In baseball.
Phillips hits one in the air to left field, racing over his Mitchell. That's over his head. Phillips has an extra base hit. 7-0 as Steinbach scores on a double by Tony Phillips.
The A's would later get another run on a Lansford single and a Steinbach walk. And Terry Steinbach became the only catcher in World Series history to have a triple and 3 RBIs in a single game.
1 second.
I keep sneaking these how about that's in there.
I'm impressed. I'm very impressed.
Mm-hmm. The A's were raking in this one just like they did all season long. And in the ninth, Dennis Eckersley went to finish the job.
A's trying to sweep, but the Giants have certainly not made life easy for them tonight. That's a ground ball to the right side, speared by Phillips, flips to Eckersley. Yes, he's there in time, and the A's are the world champions.
It is. The Oakland A's are World Series champions for the first time before. This core was bound to win one after last season happened, and Chris, they were able to get it done in 1989.
Yeah, they were able to do it after a heartbreaking end to their previous season. Were able to put all the pieces together.
Dave Stewart won World Series MVP. He went 2-0 with a 1.69 ERA, 16 innings pitched, and 14 strikeouts. Dave Henderson hit really well in the series, 308, 500, 923, 1423 OPS, 2 home runs, 2 doubles, and 4 RBIs. Rickey Henderson slashed 474, 524, 895 for a 1419 OPS. 1 double, 2 triples, 1 home run, and 3 stolen bases. Also, in the entirety of the playoffs, he slashed 441, 568, 941, 1509, 8 extra base hits, 8 RBI, 9 walks, 12 runs scored, and 11 stolen bases in just 9 games. He also reached base safely at least twice in all 9 games. Incredible work from Rickey there. Carney Lansford slashed 438, 526, 688, 1214 with 1 home run, 4 RBIs, and 3 walks. Jose Canseco, very similar job. 357, 500, 571, 1071, 1 home run, 3 RBI, and 4 walks on the series. Terry Steinbach slashed 250, 333, 563, 896 with 7 RBI for the A's. And Dave Parker also had a 889 OPS. Also, Mike Moore went 2-0 with a 208 ERA and 13 innings pitched. And that's it for the season. For the 1989 Oakland A's, the World Series champions, and rightfully so. As for this team's legacy, unequivocally, they were the best team in baseball all year round. They were the best team record-wise by 6 games in the regular season, and they went 8-1 in the postseason. Also, they were a very next man up type of team. They had a lot of injuries earlier in the season that they had to work through. You know, obviously both of the Bash Bros were out. Mark McGuire is only out for a couple weeks, so I mean, you could probably excuse that one. But Jose Canseco was out for the whole first half. Dennis Eckersley was out for a month plus. Storm Davis missed some time. Walt Weiss missed some time, and they had guys step up. Tony Phillips playing everywhere on the diamond. Carney Lansford breaking out with a 336 batting average. Guys like Stan Javier were able to fill some spots. Todd Burns, Bob Welsh. I mean, you know, there was so many guys that you could just plug into this lineup that could perform when needed, when they needed it most, when everyone was down.
Yeah, this team is absolutely stacked. Bash Brothers, and then when you add in Rickey Henderson, it becomes pretty much an unstoppable force, and they were an unstoppable force in those playoffs, and you know, also in the regular season, 99-63, and then they went 8-1 in the playoffs. They were an absolutely dominant team.
Yeah, and not only that, but they also played after a natural disaster in their area. There, I mean, I know it happened in San Francisco, but it affected Oakland as well, and they were able to pick the city up and get them a World Series. So this team, they had a heart. They had a lot of good chemistry. They had so many good guys that you could just plug in. You know, I mean, when I when we picked this team, I was not expecting to talk about Carney Lansford this much, but here we are. I was not expecting to talk about Tony Phillips this much, but here we are. So, I mean, there were a lot of guys that really broke out for them this season and were big pieces to the puzzle. Also, Dave Parker at 38 too.
Yeah. Dave Parker, who got some Hall of Fame consideration. He was a part of that. He was a decent part of that 1989 A's club,
especially in the postseason.
Definitely a fun club to go over. One of the more fun teams. Pretty likable team.
Absolutely.
Different cast of characters.
Also, Terry Steinbach, remaining an all-star catcher. He started for the second straight year, I believe. Kept it going, hit 322 in the first half, which you're not supposed to do as a catcher, especially in the 80s. I mean, they were they had a lot of depth. And, I think the thing that's going to stick with me is the next man up type of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with those injuries at the beginning of the season seemed to not faze them at all.
That's right.
So does that close the book on the 1989 Athletics?
It sure does. A fun team.
So fantastic team to cover. And now we will be looking to pick our next pair of player and team to cover next week.
First this week.
Yeah, I'm going first this week. For those unaware, we started doing this history show pretty much at the start of quarantine. We realized baseball was not going to be coming back. Daniel came up with the idea: 30 players and 30 teams. We're going to write them down. Daniel put down 30 teams, one for each franchise, like the 1989 Athletics. Not a full team history, just one season out of the team's history. And I was instructed to put down 30 players. 30 players, different eras, different teams, like Jimmy Fox. Kind of a random Hall of Famer. So now we are down to 15 guys on the list. We reshuffle after every 5 players and teams we pick. We assign each player and team a random number through computer randomization, and then I'll pick a number for the team we will be talking about, and Daniel will pick a number for the player we are going to be talking about. So I'm going first this week. This week we are going to be talking about team number 11.
Team number 11. We are staying within roughly the same era. We're still going pre-strike. And for the first time in history, we have completed a division. We've done every team in one division. This is a team that won the World Series in one of the best games of all time, the 1991 Minnesota Twins.
Nice. I do like going pre-strike. Different game for sure. Game.
Kirby Puckett, Gene Larkin's big hit to win the series. Jack Morris's huge outing. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Looking forward to seeing the different cast of characters that made that a World Series team. So now, Daniel, what player are we going to be talking about next week?
Player number 2.
Player number 2. This is sort of the same era as Jimmy Fox. When I was describing Jimmy Fox, you thought I was describing this guy. We're going to be talking about Rogers Hornsby next week.
Nice. Rogers Hornsby. Possibly, I said this with Joe Morgan, but I'll say it for him too. Possibly the greatest second baseman of all time. This guy's career went so under the radar. He was just so unbelievably good. I'm glad he's on the list.
Yeah, like Babe Ruth was doing unbelievable things in the AL, but Rogers Hornsby was kind of that guy in the NL. So about time we give him some recognition. We're going to be talking about Rogers Hornsby next week. Looking forward to it. Another guy who shined in the 20s for the most part.
Yeah. So we've done every AL Central team for
Yeah, at first I was confused because I was thinking about it. We've done 4 of the 5 AL West teams, and I was like,
well, technically there's 4 AL West teams on the list because the Astros I did in 2005.
yeah, technically. But yeah, and then you said pre-strike, and I was like, well, this isn't the Angels.
Nope.
So yeah, I was surprised to hear that. So we're going to be talking about Rogers Hornsby and the 1991 Twins next week. We hope you enjoyed our Jimmy Fox 1989 Athletics episode. And first of all, we'd like to thank Baseball Reference, StatHead, Fangraphs, and MLB on YouTube for the information and the content that was able to help produce this episode. And we would also like to encourage you to watch the videos with us. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and you want to watch the videos with us, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is called STBNL with Chris Gianta and Daniel Curran. Also, if you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta, follow Daniel on Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran, and follow the show Instagram at STBNL Podcast. And we hope you enjoyed our Jimmy Fox and 1989 Athletics episode, and we hope to see you next Tuesday, where we're going to be talking about MLB news, rumors, and making the Hall of Fame case for and against Mark Burley. And we hope to see you on Wednesday and next Wednesday and Thursday, where we're going to be talking about Rogers Hornsby and the 1991 Twins. See you then.